I've never touched Advance Wars, and I've barely grazed the Fire Emblem series, so why am I suddenly locked into Tiny Metal 2? Good evening everyone, welcome back to another Rapid Rambles where you took a look at anything indie, mod, or retro related with some gameplay and or first impressions. Tiny Metal 2 was easily one of the standout games that I saw at PAX East. I first got a chance to play their game on their show floor, and I got a few words with their developer after their showcase. It's just I didn't start recording until the last day, so I didn't get it on camera. But this is one of the trading cards that they had me pick out, and then this is their business card. I later found out that there's an ongoing playtest going on, actually still to this day, on Steam, and it's running until April 30th, so I highly recommend checking this out. It's free to download and you jump right straight into the game. Tiny Metal 2 is Area 35's sequel to their original Tiny Metal game that they released back in 2017. Tiny Metal 2 is a turn-based, grid-based strategy game with various objectives. In this demo, you're placed in a 2v2 PvE match. Your objective is either to destroy the enemy's VIP units or to just overtake them as a whole. On each of your turns, you get to move all your units strategically and place them where you'd best optimize their shooting range, movements, and their roles in the game. You can either strike down your enemies or position your units for a focused attack, and a focused attack is basically where you have one of your units locked onto a target, and then once you get your second unit ready to fire, it combines the attack power of both units, causing more than just double the damage to your ongoing target. And each of your units has a limited amount of attacks that they can do throughout the whole game. Like for example, the heavy metal tanks, which are kind of like scorpions from Halo, they have a limit of 6 shots per game, but you can also share your supplies between your units. So say for example, your strikers or mechas are near your heavy metals, they can use their turn in order to give more ammunition to your other ground unit. And at the beginning of the game, you start off with a certain amount of units. I think it's like 6 or 7, but on each turn you gain resources by destroying other enemies or making tactical moves. But you can also increase the amount of money you get per turn by mounting your infantry units to certain buildings, and that'll help you collect more money faster, which would help you purchase higher tier units a lot faster than you would have prior. Before jumping into the game, you get to choose one of a variety of commanders. Each commander provides their own certain buffs to a specific type of unit, and also each commander has a ultra power that can change the tides of the battle. Nathan, he specializes in ground units, Dante in metal units, Adonis in unharmed units, which means like if you choose Dante as a commander, all the units that have full health will receive a buff, whereas if there is damage units, they might receive a debuff. But also, like for example, when I was going about the ultra powers, once you activate Dante's ultra power, your units will recover 30% of their health, and the units that were already 100% health will receive a buff to their attacks. So depending on which units you like to play as, there's a suitable commander for your playstyle. Like Wolfman is also for infantry, Victoria is for the new naval units that are introduced in Tiny Metal 2, Nora and Leonardo both share their care for mecha units, and then Pagoda is for all units. His specialty is more so not buffing and debuffing, but giving experience points to the units. The more your units destroy the enemy units, the more experience points they gain, which will cause them to level up, which will increase their attack power. And I believe it also increases their base health, but don't quote me on that part. And from what I've seen in this demo, there are 4 types of units. There's infantry, ground units, aerial, and the new naval units that are introduced in Tiny Metal 2. Infantry, you have your riflemen, your lancers, which are like the guys with the bazooka, they're like anti-vehicle, your snipers, and then your spec ops. Each have their specialty and their use cases. Like for example, riflemen are probably the weakest out of the infantry, but they're also the cheapest. So if you're running low on cash or you're saving up for like the bigger units, riflemen will at least put up a fight. And then for ground units, those are your like tanks. There's mechas, there's anti-airs, there's air strikers, heavy metals, which are kind of like your scorpions, and then archelons, which are like your transport units, like the elephants from Halo. I know I keep saying Halo, but the variety of units kind of really reminds me of like Halo Wars or Halo Wars 2. I know there's a big difference between turn-based strategy games and then like real-time strategy games, but it's army stuff, and that's like my Halo Wars is a army-based strategy game that I've put in the most hours. So when I play this game, I'm also reminded of that, even though it's 2 separate subgenres, but they're both just equally as fun. There's also aerial units, the helicopter. I've only seen the helicopter so far because I have not been able to capture an aerial hub in order to see what else is out there, but they have the greatest mobility. They can go traverse over mountains, water, bridges, land, and they don't hit the strongest or have the best sturdiness, but that's not where their specialty. Their specialty more so in their mobility. And then the last but not least are the new types of units introduced in Tiny Metal 2, which are the naval units. I had a lot of fun with these. There's the landers, which are transport units. They carry like infantry, ground units like tanks and stuff, and can transport them to the other side of the map in order for you to like plot like a surprise attack or a pincer move where you hit the enemy from like both sides. Here's the corvettes, kind of like the scouts of the water, kind of like warhogs, but like in the water, where they have a lot of mobility. They're not strongest, but they do have attack power. And then there's submarines where you can submerge and attack from the underwater. There's the destroyers, and then the battleships, which are the long range attackers that have multi-hit attacks. And that's the thing, some of these units you have to get up in your enemy's face and then like shoot one unit at a time. But for example, like the battleships, you're able to keep your distance, and then like there's like 7 crosshairs that you can shoot, and you can hit multiple enemies at once with your attacks. I've played this demo like 4 times now, once at PAX East and then 3 times on Steam. I highly recommend the game to check it out, and I can't wait for the full release. They don't have an official release here yet, but like I mentioned, this playtest is still ongoing until April 30th. So if you're into war-based strategy games, and more so turn-based, grid-based strategy games, like for example Fire Emblem, to be honest, this is the spiritual successor to Advance Wars. So if you're a fan of any of those types of games, or even the Command and Conquer games or Halo Wars, I highly recommend checking this game out. And like I mentioned for the 1000th time, this playtest is running until April 30th, and it's for free on Steam, so check it out. I've had a lot of fun with it. Let me know what you think of this game down below. Like, comment, and subscribe, and have a nice night. Bye.